Y'all already know what we're about to talk about, right? Let's go. So while Druski's video was absolutely hilarious and absolutely accurate, a lot of people out there do not know a lot about Hebrew Israelism. All right, they don't know the main tenets of their beliefs. So what do you think Chap's going to do? Absolutely, this video is going to be about educating you as to what Hebrew Israelites believe, how we can debunk some of that, and then also where you can go to get additional resources. All right. So how did this become a thing, right? Because the cults are the unpaid bills of the church. Because Christians did not know, or in some cases still do not know, what we believe, why we believe it, how to defend it, how to share it, and how to live it. Now we come up with Hebrew Israelism. So let's start at I'm gonna start at the end and tell you what you need to know, and then give you some resources on how to get there. So before engaging Hebrew Israelites, one, you need to know how and why Christ fulfilled the law. All right, you need to definitely know the difference between the law and grace, the different covenants. All right, how we received and translated the Bible. All right, I got resources on all this. The history of the Jewish people, God's redemptive plan to save all people and nations, because they don't believe that all people are going to be saved. All right. Need to have a little bit of understanding. You don't need to be a scholar in Hebrew, but you do need to understand some Hebrew. There are key words that you definitely need to be able to hone in on. All right. All right. Then also racism and reconciliation, racial reconciliation, an accurate account of the transatlantic slave trade. That's a big, big thing. All right. Consulting good commentaries on Deuteronomy, the black presence in the Bible and in church history. And then finally, knowing the camp that you are trying to reach. There are several different camps. All right. So now let me show you where you can go get this info. So listen, in my humble opinion, there is nobody on the planet more capable of talking about Hebrew Israelism than Vocab Malone. He's got a phenomenal YouTube channel. He's all over social media, and he was the guest at our Urban Apologetics Conference last year. All right. This guy did a full PowerPoint on the different camps, on the history, the teachings, and everything by the individual camp. You are not going to find a better resource on the internet than this PowerPoint. I'm telling you now. So for the $75, you get his video where he taught us for 2 hours on this class. You get his actual PDF of his PowerPoint. So you get the actual information that he gives out. It's an amazing resource, and I'll show you where you can go get this on my website. And then what you're going to be looking at today comes from my PowerPoint that I did on this several years back, but it's updated and it's available on my website. Let me show you how to get there. So if you're on TikTok, hit the link in my bio, or on Instagram, you can hit my Greater Works courses. That's where you'll find vocabs. If you're just looking for a PowerPoint on Hebrew Israelism and a whole bunch of other different urban apologetic stuff and everything, you can get that at my website, www.greaterworksdiscipleship.com. All right. Again, greaterworksdiscipleship.com. Let's get into it. So Hebrew Israelism is really rooted in Black Judaism. They believe that the people that came across in the transatlantic slave trade from West Africa were really Israelites. All right. And they will Hebrew hopscotch all over scripture to misinterpret the Bible to try to prove that point. All right. They only like using the King James version of the Bible and the Apocrypha. OK. Also believe that the white man, they call them Edomites. All right. The descendants of Esau. All right. And then a lot of times, and this is the thing with all cults, right? They try to pull people away from their family members, anybody that can properly influence them to proper teaching and everything like that. That's something that you see, and there's testimonies all over the internet to attest to this fact. So it's not that they just reject Christianity, they're going to reshape it. OK, so they're going to give you scripture, but it's always going to be twisted. It's always going to be out of context. They'll say precept upon precept, line upon line, knowing that in Isaiah 28, that was not a Bible study method. Isaiah was mocking the people at that particular time that he was talking to, kind of like Druski just did with the Hebrew Israelites. But it's in the strange twist of fate, they took mockery and developed it into a Bible study method. Just mind blowing, right? So again, many of them don't believe in literal hell. So a lot of this is really just dependent upon, specific camps and everything. So always with apologetics, asking questions is a really good tactic. But here is the biggest one. All right. They believe that in Deuteronomy 28, specifically verse 68, Moses predicts or prophesies the worldwide dispersal, captivity, and slavery for African Hebrews because of the violation of the laws of God. So there's always this big emphasis on keeping the laws. You got to keep the laws. Meanwhile, the laws were never given to us, but they believe that people are the actual Hebrews from that particular time. So they're always going to use the King James version. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. At face value, there's no way in the world that could be the transatlantic slave trade. All right. The Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. When were we there the first time? All right. So I'm going to show you how they flip this in Hebrew hopscotch all through this to make it work. So, and this will be their big thing. Y'all remember when Kyrie Irving almost got in trouble a few years ago and all that stuff, and they was out there marching to support him? They believe that their identity is found and that we fit the curses. And so that's one thing that you're going to hear them say. Who else fits the curses and everything? So having an accurate understanding of how to properly interpret Deuteronomy 28 and 68, as well as the entire Bible, is going to be helpful. You cannot be a lazy, apathetic Christian that does not know scripture and does not want to study and think that you are going to have successful engagements with Hebrew Israelites. So context, right? That's a cuss word for them. Deuteronomy is a historical book. It's not prophetic. It's not written by an Isaiah, Jeremiah, Daniel. It's not a prophetic book. It is historical genre. All right. So that's the first thing. All right. Its purpose was to ratify, expand, enlarge the covenant that was given with Israel at Mount Sinai. All right. So let's keep going. Now into Egypt again with ships. All right. Now Egypt was figurative, but the ships are literal. Meanwhile, we have historical sources, primary sources, which I'm going to show you to show that this was already literally fulfilled by actual Israelites, not the transatlantic slave trade. And we're going to show it to you. So not just once, but it was fulfilled multiple times. Let's check it out. All right, here's 3 sources, primary sources. Few thousands of Jews went into Egypt, literal Egypt, and Phoenicia because of the sedition in Syria, yada, yada, yada. And where it seems in the process of time, they became slaves. All right, that's from the greatest Jewish historian that's ever lived, Josephus. He also tells us in another work, now when Jerusalem was taken by Titus, those above 17 years were of age were sent by him to the works or mines in literal Egypt. Every time Egypt is mentioned, it's literal. All right. And then once again, St. Jerome, writer of the Vulgate. After this, the last overthrow by Adrian, many thousands were sold, and what could not be sold were transported into Egypt and perished by shipwreck. So how did they get there? By ship. So again, this was literally fulfilled, but you can toss these sources in their faces, and because they've been so deceived into this false belief, they'll look right at it and still say, no, this is talking about the transatlantic slave trade, and then manipulate scripture to try to make it work. Now, this is my favorite one. So there you shall be sold unto your enemies and for bondmen and bondwomen. So that says there be sold. But what the text is actually saying, and y'all hear me say this all the time, it's not what the text says, it's what the text means. And you can see here, the most popular translations of scripture are demonstrating that what the text was actually saying is that the people would be selling themselves. All right. Not that they would be sold, but that they would be selling themselves. All right. Look at every translation of scripture and you'll see that outside of the King James Version. All right. And now you can see why they want to stick to the King James, because they have to in order to make their doctrine work. So, and here's some additional information that uses, again, some of the Hebrew to help us understand why it means that. All right. Not why it says that, but why it means that. This is where having some understanding, a basic level, having a good commentary, all right, having a good Bible software will be helpful in making sure that you understand this stuff. So in the last part, and no man shall buy you. So Hebrew Israelites will say, oh, that means redeem. But that's not what the text actually says. All right. So again, there's really good information in this as a breakdown. This is some really good information here. And a lot of it was drawn from Dr. Eric Mason's volume 1 of Urban Apologetics. If you're looking for a book to get, that's my #1 recommendation to get started on this journey as well. All right. So I get pastors, leaders, family members all the time, and I be trying to post videos, but then it's not until your family member gets caught up in Hebrew Israelism, then everybody wants to do a deep dive on Hebrew Israelism and rush to get an understanding of it. And I'm recommending, suggesting, highly recommending to you, get an understanding of this now. Teach this to your people now, pastors, so that when they see them on the street corners, they don't have to be afraid and avoid them, but they understand what the scriptures actually say and what they mean so that they will not fall into deception. I love y'all. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, shoot me a message, DM me. We're here to help. I got all kind of resources. Love y'all so much.